Good afternoon. Thank you all for signing in with us today, for coming to visit and have a conversation with us. My name is Paula Green from the All People Foundation, and we are having an in-depth discussion with Ms. Geraldine Mabry Smith, the founder and the president of Life Builders United, Inc. Ms. G, as she's often called, is here with us, and we're going to be discussing how Life Builders became what it is, where she got the idea from, and where the organization is heading in the future. So, Ms. G,
I'm here.
thank you so much for stopping by, for allowing us to come by and have this conversation with you. I know you and I work closely together, so I have a pretty good idea of who you are and what you are working on building here in Inglewood. Could you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of your background, and a little bit about how Life Builders became what it is today?
Well, Paula, Life Builders' birth certificate was signed inside of my cement coffin. Instead of me writing about my death date, I was writing life for children and women and men coming out of prison, because I knew I was going to be one of those. I started writing my programs for the program while I was in that cement coffin. And it has been a trying episode. It has been a struggle sometimes, but it's nothing that will defeat me. I spent 19 years in prison, and all the while, the expectation for me was to make sure something was done for the children, especially the ones most people had written off, especially the young people over here in Inglewood, where Inglewood was considered at that time the most notorious neighborhood in America, the most broken, the most barren neighborhood in America. And God was still showing me where, in this community, there was good. Even though it was covered with a lot of clutter, it was like a diamond covered with waste. And somebody had to come and just shine a little bit, just rub a little bit, till we make that diamond show up, and to make the people understand that it's not about those who have it all. Sometimes it's about those who have nothing.
Absolutely.
So that nothing would show up to be something. And the only way for it to be something is that we have to be dedicated to the job of helping. I'm dedicated to helping these people over here. I'm dedicated to this community. I'm over here most times 7 days a week doing what I do to try to help them. We're getting ready for our annual CHIP program, which is huge, which most people say you have to be insane to take on. But with no federal help, no grants, no whatever, I take it on and we get it done. And we get it done, I believe, by God.
Well, could you tell us a little bit more about exactly what CHIP is and how it came to be?
CHIP is a program. It's called CHIP, C-H-I-P, but it's actually an acronym. That is, children having incarcerated parents.
Okay.
I was one of those incarcerated parents. I had an 8-month-old son when I went to prison. And during the holiday season to me was the most trying. Because I always wondered, did anybody take care of my baby? Did anybody take a second look at what my baby might be missing because he didn't have a mother at that time? And to help my child. And I made a promise to myself that I was going to help the children. Well, be it their mothers or fathers was incarcerated in a physical prison or incarcerated with some of the things that would make them not be real parents out here. Moms can be on drugs, or dad can be on drugs, or mom could be alcoholic. That child suffers.
Yes.
That child suffers. So I made it when I first got out, I did the first program. It was called the CHIP program. But then when I looked around to the side, I had more children standing outside of the CHIP than inside of the CHIP, because their parents wasn't necessarily in a physical prison. But they were in prison. And I often tell the story about this young girl that we were serving. We were giving away writing pads, and there was 5 pads in a package. And I just noticed this one girl, she kept reading everything. Everything she picked up, she read it. So I nudged the worker and said, give her the whole pack. Let's see what she do. And she gave it to her. But then later that little girl came back to me and tugged on me and said, ma'am, would you keep these for me? And I said, no, sweetie, they're yours. I gave them to you. She said, my mama will sell them. I realized then that children can be in a household, and that can be their prison. Just like one little girl about 14 years old said to me one day, you talk about your cement coffin, but what about the graveyard I've been living in all my life? She was telling me that living in Inglewood, she had stepped over dead bodies. She had to go around dead bodies. And she was only 14 or 15 years old. What that was doing to her, I had no physical clue, but I had compassion for her that was saying, do something to help them. And in my doing, the only thing I could do, Paula, was to try to keep them from killing each other. And understand, anybody, how would you want your child to feel like they're living in a graveyard? So what do we do about it? So we work with these children. And then at the end of the year, we give this annual program called CHIPS. I wrote that program while I was incarcerated. And it has 4 parts to it. The Little Feet, 1 to 5, boys and girls. The Youth on a Journey, 6 to 12, boys and girls. The G&W, 13, 19, which is a program for girls, for us to teach and mentor young teenage girls. Teach young girls how to dress, teach young girls how to talk, teach them how to keep their body clean, teach them how to do things with their hands, and work with them as we move. And a lot of time, we can do it with the teenagers, but we have to look back at the household in which they're growing up in. What's happening in that household? Is mother being the sister or being the mother? Or is she trying to be the best friend instead of being the mother? And sometimes I take on problems, you might say, or areas that it's not surrounded by life builders, but life builders can't be in the community unless we be outside and inside of the homes too. When we think about the grandparents.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I know the motto for Life Builders is building families to build communities. And so I understand the turnover. But here's the thing that's interesting to me. You know, for most of us, when we think of prison, we think of a prison as 4 walls, roof, floors, and locked into physical walls. But just based on this conversation, in the way in which you describe what the little girl, 2 of the young women have said to you, is that it appears that prison is more than just physical walls. Prison can be the conditions under which our children are living. It sounds like poverty, because Inglewood is one of the poorest communities in the state of Illinois. It sounds like poverty can also be considered a prison. So to your point, my question then is, how does Life Builders address these invisible prison and walls inside of a community that keeps people locked in and isolated from opportunities? What role does Life Builders play inside of that?
The educational part.
Yeah.
I think you and I had this conversation about where does the cliche when you call a black person a coon? Where does the cliche when we talk about hood rats? Those are labels that are pinned to certain action. So what better are we if we see the action and we see the condition, yet we keep ourselves isolated outside of it instead of going inside to clean it up and to correct it. That's the role we play, inside to correct it. Not just mentoring words to a young girl, but find out when she go home what's going on there. See, I'm from Mississippi, and my dad and mom was old-fashioned, as you say. My dad didn't allow us to spend the night at other people's homes.
Oh, I remember that.
And we used to wonder, Dad, why we can't? And he said, because I said so. But he would explain it to my mother. When my children are, my girls in my house, I know what's going on. I don't know what's going on down the road or down the street. I have no control of another man's house. So if he got drunkards or whoever in his house, my girls are in danger. We don't, as a whole, we don't look at what's going on inside of the homes so that we can protect people and we can help build people. We're supposed to be able to talk to the grandmothers because they done raised 2 and 3 generations of children.
Especially
They're
in our
tired.
communities, yes.
We're supposed to be able to talk to these moms and dad and make them understand. It's not about you anymore. It's about the child and the future. So as we try to build, we try to start with that child, but we have to be a strong influence on both what's going on inside of that house.
So you have to deal with the adults, the seniors, and the children inside the house.
We have to.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we often, I think, miss when people from outside of our community begin to label our community in a certain way and create these 10-second sound bites that they think sums up the challenges in our community. But it's obvious just from speaking to Ms. G that her experience from being on the front lines in the community shows that we have to be addressing the entire family. We can't do a whole lot with the children unless the parents buy into the change, buy into preparing for the next generation. Is that right?
That's correct. And that mom cried out.
A support system.
That mom cried. It was a mom just cried out to me a few minutes ago. I don't have any Pampers for my baby. Can you please? I'm a community center. I'm not getting any funding. But rather than see the breakdown of this, I'll go in my pocket if I got to buy that baby. Don't even know that baby's name. Some Pampers. Because that's what we're supposed to do. The compassion we can have from afar. But the passion sends us into it to do something about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to get back to talk about CHIP, but before we get back to the CHIP program, I want to ask you this, because I think for a lot of us in the community who may want to do something and don't have anything, we really don't know where to start how or where to start in being part of the solution to the community. You said Life Builders doesn't get any funding. How do you do what you do, Ms. G?
I think I do what I do. No, I don't think. I know I do what I do by faith. And I know that God is watching. And I know that God is not going to assign me to an assignment that He know I would fail at. I'm not going to fail at this, Paula, because I'm doing it for Him. So the motive is the motor that pushes that pulls or pushes the train, right?
Yes.
So my motive is to make sure I'm doing it to please God. And I might not have sometimes or have the things that the community needs as a whole, but I might have something that can build and help a family or build and help a mother to be a real mother, to have that strength and tenaciousness to stand and not succumb to what the streets are offering.
Yes, and to find a way to remove some of her stress, which brings me to, let's get back to the CHIP, because I've been here with you for a little while now, and I've seen, right now you're in the middle of registering for the CHIP program. Can you tell us some more about, when the CHIP program, the CHIP holiday program is going to be, and what people need to do to get involved?
Well, the CHIP program is going to be December 23rd.
Okay.
From 3 to 8 o'clock. I am going to service this organization. When I say I mean the organization. We're going to service tons of children. The things that we're going to give these children, God is going to send. He's going to send people. He always sends people to do His work here that we need to do. Like yesterday, I went to Pepsi. Mm-hmm. And before we get into Pepsi, they met us at the front door.
Wow. Yeah.
With the amount of water and juice and drinks and stuff that I'm going to need, Pepsi is going to step forward with that. Now, it's going to depend too on people who have listening ear and these seeds be planted on rocky ground, or whether it be planted inside of their heart to say, I'm able, but I'm not doing. I'm looking for the people who are able and will do. At this program, last year we serviced 4,100 children. This year we're going to have probably over 5,000 from the turnout the way it's going now.
Wow.
It is my duty to be able to say to a company or whoever, what you do and the blessings God done put on you is God's blessings, not yours. And just as good as He bless you, He can shut you down. Let's do what He want us to do, rather, for the apple of His heart, and that is for the children. I can't go wrong as long as I'm servicing children. They are God's babes.
And they're the future of our community. They're the future of our community and of our generation, of our people. And so I understand that. So, so companies can donate to Life Builders, and they can become sponsors.
That depends. They can become sponsors according to the condition of their heart. Let's not get scriptures to be cliches, sound bites, sound goods. They have meanings. The condition of our heart depends on the soil and how we operate out of it, and how we want to bless somebody else and take care of somebody else. Maybe sometime I don't want to be in Inglewood, and I not need to be in Inglewood, but this is where the work is. I'm not going to run from the work. I got so many people who is a part of Life Builders, like this Sharon Corporation and this Elton Noise. I watched that old lady with her restaurant shut it down and become an instrument of service for 4,000 children last year.
You mean Dan Soul Food?
Dan Soul Food.
Ah, yes. And they've been in business for what, 25 years? And they're supporting the CHIP program and the CHIP network. So they're the ones who cater the
These are
food?
the people who cater the food in.
Wow.
When I talk about Home Depot, or when I talk about Mr. Richard Goodrich, or Pepsi, or whatever, these are mega corporations. But they are not mega to God until they do the right things. And when I see people like Manny, Romero, and Richard said, okay, let us see what we can do. Because they come and see over here. When I see the Beards and now S&J Construction step up, have a brand new gazebo put out there, because this is
Yes, you do.
part of the whole program and not just a part of something just celebrating one day. We're setting it up so that we can mentor the people in this community, just from the seniors on down, and we have to be the bridge where these youth can walk across and meet the seniors. The seniors has the wisdom. The youth have the strength of the legs and the know-how. But in this community, at one point, they were so busy killing one another and not even know why. But we as a people was afraid to go out and talk to them. I go out and talk to them, Paula. I invite them in. I love my Abasar boys.
And who is your Abasar Boys?
The Abasar Boys is a group of young men coming out of prison, been to prison, and did everything under the sun, but came in this office one day and say, help us, because we trust you. Help us to do it right. So I'm the mother mentor, you might say, here at Life Builder, to give them a place to come and to sit with me or with you or who, Mr. George or whoever, and advise them and try to direct them in the right way.
Mentor them.
That's what we have to do. We can't just keep turning our nose up and turning our backs up because we're better. Because those who have more than us do the same thing.
To whom much is given, much is required. And even for those who think we don't have enough to give, sometimes just of your time, of your ability to love, of your desire to want to be part of the solution. I think this work is just most excellent, and I believe that there's so much opportunity for growth for Life Builders and its role in the community, for transformation in the community.
And it's not just Inglewood. Sometimes the ills is outside of Inglewood, brought into Inglewood. And sometimes the ills is a label that's put on Inglewood. People have different, what's the word? People have different
Perceptions,
perceptions of things. But how many of us really try to
peel the layer.
the real? When I see these young boys sometimes with their pants down, I don't say a word. Sometimes. And if I say something, I don't have to say it directed to them. I can just say it about me. I'm going to walk down these street one day with my pants down just to see what people will say. They know I'm talking to them. Just to see how stupid I look. They know I'm talking to them. But I do it out of love. I don't do it to hurt them, Paula. I never would hurt them.
It's obvious. I mean, it really takes love to want to put yourself on the line to become part of the solution. This is somewhat of a thankless job in terms of, monetary value or getting rich off of this. I mean, there isn't going to be anyone down here getting rich off of this kind of work, and yet you persist with this. So now let's...
My calling. It's the call that God has given me. That's the commission He has given me. And then when people see me struggle, and I'm not allowed at all times to say, help me do this, help me do that. But when you see it, nobody should have to ask you. When people see what we're doing and what I'm doing over here, I shouldn't have to ask. But it shows me how close you are to God when you don't help. Or when you protect a establishment more than you protect the one He has breathed His breath into.
To those who are least able to protect themselves. I think it's just phenomenal, the work that Life Builders is doing. So let's just recap. In terms of the CHIPS holiday program, is going to be December the 23rd. It's from 3 in the afternoon to 8 at night. You're looking for volunteers, right? And so what happens during the event itself? Tell us something about the event. Like for this year, what are you going to have?
Well, we have entertainment.
Okay.
The Chicago Boys is going to come and perform.
Oh.
They're going to perform, and then we're going to have I Am That Kid, the owner.
Mr. Wade.
Wade is going to be here. Pastor Jolena Wade, the mother of Dwayne Wade, is bringing her small children's group, which is called Show Me My Blackness.
Wow.
They're going to perform. And we're going to have a whole array of talents and stuff that's going on. But most of all, we're looking to feed these people. Not just the children, but to feed the whole families. And I have seen in the past with some of the fathers, the Christmas gifts that we give these children, the Christmas bag, those fathers were so delighted because they didn't have anything to give them themselves. So here's what we do. We step in to be that surrogate parent, to help that parent to be the real parent.
You're standing in the gap for the parents as well as the children, because that's one less stress. I mean, if you can take your children someplace for the holiday season where they can get the gifts, at least they have something. A lot of the parents in our community already have so much to worry about. So I think that is an excellent idea.
And then we just made an agreement with the Crawford Broadcasting.
Yes.
With Power 92, with Soul 106, and with WYCA. They're going to be doing the advertisement, and that speaks volume about one of the general manager, Jana Bonds, as well as the owner, Mr. Donald Crawford, because that's mega to have 3 of your major stations running advertisement and gathering gifts and stuff up until December 23rd.
Oh my, so Crawford Broadcasting stations are going to be running the ads, the PSAs, public service announcements, and they're also going to be asking for donations for the CHIP program?
Different gifts and stuff to be donated.
And they're going to have places where people can go and deliver those gifts?
Yes.
That is most excellent.
So then, and I have to say this, to the state representative Sonia Hopper and to Commissioner
Dear?
Commissioner Deere, the efforts that they are showing as new blood in the game now is just tremendous.
For supporting what's going on in the community on the ground and Life Builders specifically. Well, that is excellent. This is what community redevelopment requires. It requires a partnership between not-for-profits or community-based organizations with the leadership of those communities and with businesses in the community. Anything that goes right or wrong in a community, really, we all need to take responsibility for it, because it has to be a community effort. You know, I was saying earlier that oftentimes when our communities are depicted, they're depicted as dysfunctional and that there's nothing right going on in the community. It's nothing but destruction. But I'm here today to tell you, in partnership with Ms. Geraldine Smith from Life Builders United, that not only is something going on, wonderful things, there are beautiful, lovely things going on in Inglewood. This is it for this segment of the show. We will be back shortly, in a week or so, with a follow-up on Life Builders United, Inc., Ms. Geraldine's story and the progress, the where she sees this whole organization and the CHIP network going forward. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.